mi botón de grabar. Y muy bien, y muy buenos días. Bienvenidos y bienvenidas. ¿Cómo están todos hoy?
Muy,
Muy
muy
¿Bien?
bien.
bien, muy bien.
¿Bien? Para lunes, for Monday. Para lunes. Bien. Bueno, a ver. Muy bien. Vamos a practicar mucho. Vamos a practicar con cosas bastante difíciles. We're going to practice with some kind of challenging stuff, but again, we're going to want to, our goal for today is to recognize when people are talking in the past. So recognize for hearing it. And, we'll do a little practice of using it, some easy stuff, but we'll explain a little why that can be a challenge with Spanish. Because the problem is with any of these story videos, of course, people will flip back and forth between saying something is happening now, something is happening in the future, and did happen in the past. And the did happen in the past part is the part that is quite challenging in Spanish. Future is easy because it's like the recipe video you had for the espinacas, the spinach thing. It's future is ir a infinitive. So future is easy because they have a formal future tense, but you don't really need to know a lot about it to communicate well because ir a is what people use conversationally as opposed to formal future tense. Um, you'll hear that more in maybe in the news broadcasts. You'll hear it more, or you'll read it more in formal writing, like for a newspaper or a novel. But you can get by with a lot in Spanish without knowing future tense. But that past, that's a tricky one because we do it all the time, right? Oop, there goes my camera again. You do a lot with flipping back and forth of, well, I'm giving a class now, but I watered everything in the garden 2 hours ago. And you have to be able to recognize, at least you should, it's a great idea to be able to recognize when people are flipping back into speaking in the past. So it's going to be more of a recognition thing right now, and we'll give you a chance to practice a bit. Pero, quiero saber, como siempre, quiero saber. I want to know because I gave you a little cheat sheet with some practice vocabulary because there was some vocabulary that could have been a little challenging. That whole idea of desvelar, yeah, staying up super late. Bien. Quiero saber si hay alguna pregunta de este video de Andrea. She used a lot of present, but she flipped into past tense here and there. Is there any question with your little markings of time markers? Uh, Julie, dime.
It was at 1:30 and she flipped into Estaba, which I'm assuming is a pivot, and
Ah,
I want to know why she did it there.
aha. Vamos a ver. Yeah, let's talk about that because that will actually get into something we'll talk about later today. Entonces, es buena pregunta. We're going to show this stretch for context. Bien.
Estaba editando un video.
Here it says evitando, but she really said editando,
Ah,
E-D-I-T, editing. That was an AI mistake. Evitando would mean avoiding. She was not avoiding a video, she was editing a video. But she said estaba evitando. Now, if she is editing right now in real time, it'll be estoy editando. I am editing, right? But she used estaba editando. That is the common way to say was editing. That estaba is a past tense. It is not the one I showed you that is called preterite. So our difficulty is that there are two, not one, but two, and if you go to Spain, you can multiply that to three common past. I'm
Mar Marilyn, I have a question.
see,
Can
see.
this can that suffix with ABA mean I used to?
Yes, it
Like when I
can.
was a child, I used to, or something?
Exacto.
Okay,
That is the
that's what I
perfect way
thought.
to think about that.
Okay.
But
But
oh,
in this context, why did she, because she had been using what we, um, what am I trying to say? She had been using the preterite, and then she flipped into this just for this one statement.
yes, she did. Because saying I was editing is saying that something else was going on while she was editing, right? It's like background information.
Hmm.
That estaba with an ando tells you that that information is going on in the background. Think of like the movies when people are focusing in a movie on like two people conversing or eating dinner in a cafe, but there are all kinds of things going around behind them in the background. That's what the estaba trabajando.
Okay.
That's what it tells you. That other past tense that is not the preterite that we showed you last week is called the imperfect, which sounds like something is not perfect, but it is actually very perfect because it is a very easy to use tense. But the reason it is used, like in estaba editando, is to give an idea of rolling background information. What's happening in the background? Yeah. Uh, and it can, in some, it is used make to convey descriptions in the past. It is used to give background action information, things going on in the scene in the background. It is used to say used to, meaning something happened a bunch of times. Buena pregunta, Julie. That is a good ear that you picked that out and said, that is odd. What is that puppy? That is was editing.
Okay.
Bien. Otra pregunta. Any other question about any phrase she used? What we're going to see eventually.
Marilyn, I don't
Oh,
know if I'm like others, but I'm always just glad to know what the stem is
yes.
on a
You
verb,
know what?
right? I'm like, oh, I think I know what she's trying to say, even though I don't really know why she used that suffix on there, right? So,
Yes. Sí, 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 sí. Okay. La clave, the key. The key is that uh, if you listen for the stem, you'll often know what the actual action is. You just may not know the tense they are using. You may be puzzled at this stage of the game, which would be really very normal, by the way. What time frame are they talking about? Because that's what tenses talk about. A tense talks about when the action is happening, will happen, did happen, would happen, might happen, all those things. Okay, so if you recognize the stem, but notice that the ending looks, that's not something I studied in class. You know the basic action. You just may not know the exact time frame. They're putting that in. Okay. I'm trying to find maybe another example where we can see this. Ba, 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 ba. It's always obvious when you listen, but then when I have to look for a specific example, of course, it's difficult to find. But okay. In any case, if you look for the stem, that is the base verb, and you notice it's got a different ending, just know that it's talking about a different time frame. a different verb tense. And of course, I can't find it now that I want to show one to you. I can't find it, but I could do that if I pulled up a new video somewhere. Okay. Bien. Hay otra pregunta. Is there another question of any little phrase? No? Nada? Okay. Bien. You got the basic idea. You know, I think when we're very, very young, we tend to do that night owl thing more. And when you burn the candle at both ends, it comes back at you eventually. Okay. Bien. We are going to progress to the questions I attached to this after we have our little lesson. Bien. Okay. Let's talk more about this past tense conundrum. It is a conundrum. It is difficult. Out of all the tenses in Spanish, this is one that really has to be tackled kind of early. And by the way, in recent people who investigate how people learn best, people who are proponents of doing the storytelling method for learning any language, have started to push very, very heavily that you should actually teach past tense right away to kids because it's what they use most often. You know, little kids often, want to tell you, oh, I woke up too early, or oh, our car wouldn't start this morning. We talk about the past all the time, so avoiding it is kind of difficult. So what we want to do is to recognize when these things happen. So now here is, and I'm gonna, voy a engrandecer, I'm gonna make this bigger. This thing is going to come into play very, very, very soon, and we'll show you why estaba happened, why it happened, uh, why that estaba with editando happened. We'll show you that shortly. So now, there are two past tenses in Spanish, but all right, already in English, we've got dash ed. She walked to the mailbox, right? Uh, he walked upstairs. Um, we, and boy, all the irregulars come to mind in English right away. We fixed, you know,
Mommy and Penny starts in 30 minutes.
yeah. So, um, but we have lots of irregulars in English, like I can't say he sitted down. I can't take ed and put it on the end of sit, to sit. He sitted down. No, because it's sat, and you just have to know that that's irregular, right? Or we don't say he speaked. He speaked to the crowd. No, he spoke to the crowd. We have lots and lots of irregulars, and that is going to happen in Spanish as well. So preterito, the one we're going to try to do a little bit with today, is very, very action, one-time event oriented. All right. It talks about something that happened one time or at a specific time. And that is key because it is at a specific time is not the same as used to, right? Okay. If I want to say, she used to shop at this store, it means that somebody did that multiple times and, a lot, but we don't know exactly. Well, pretérito can't be used for the a lot idea. It has to be about an event that is well defined with a definite beginning and a definite end. And think about it as an event. Some instructors have tried to teach this to people when to use preterite as, if I kept a diary, And if I can write down in my diary, I did this today, I did that today, my partner did this today, right? If you can write it down and as an event in a diary, that's what we use preterite for, right? Or if I want to say somebody graduated at a certain time, on a certain date, they graduated in December. Well, that happened and it's kind of over with. It happened on that date, December 10th, December 15th, whatever that was, right? June, whatever. And it's easily defined in that little enclosed time period. Those are the jobs for preterite. If I talk about what I did in the course of my morning between my 6 a.m. wake up and now, all those little things, one event that followed another, that followed another. I woke up, I went to the bathroom, I fed the pets, I watered the plants, I called my mother-in-law, I did all these things. Boom, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. That's a job for Preterito. These are all things that happened. They're easily defined as over and they're done. Okay. That imperfecto is what you were hearing with the estaba idea. The imperfecto is going to have a different set of conjugations. They're easy. They're easy. The good news to that is that they're easy to use. The bad news is that it's kind of hard for us to understand why imperfecto is used, but this idea of used to is the most helpful thing you can hold on to. There are many situations where imperfecto it has to be used in Spanish instead of preterito. Whenever we talk about an action that was done a lot with great frequency, but the emphasis is not on how many times it happened, just the fact that it used to happen. That English idea of used to is what we need the imperfecto conjugations for, okay? So automatically, without even using any kind of a time cue, the conjugation of that verb tells you it's a used to or something was going on. Another reason that the other conjugations for imperfecto are used are to talk about actions that are descriptive in the past. Okay, here's an example of that. Oh, my relatives live in the Midwest. They told me the trees were beautiful. The trees were beautiful. The trees are not an event, yeah, because of the fall colors. The colors of the trees, the description that the trees were beautiful, that's not an event. I can't write it down in my diary. I mean, you could, but it's a description. It's not an event. It's not, nobody did the trees. You know, the trees looked a certain way. That's a description in the past. And descriptions in the past have to go into imperfecto. Why is that? Because descriptions in the past are not limited to happening at a certain time and necessarily, okay, at some point they were over, but we don't know when. So anything that has the very fuzzy edges, like a cloud's edges, we don't really know when it started or ended. We just want to say it was this way. We want to show what it looked like. That's not an event. So we need to use the other past tense in Spanish to convey that idea. Okay? So instead of the mountains were beautiful, you're used to hearing las montañas son hermosas, to give that, to put that into a description in the past. Son needs to become eran, and that's an irregular form in the imperfecto, but eran means they were. The mountains were beautiful. Okay, bien? So we use it for descriptions. We use it for repeated actions or actions where we don't know how often. Used to. Okay. I'm going to add one extra thing because probably it's maybe not something you will recognize right away, but imperfecto is also used to uh, convey background action. Um, and that means that something else is coming up. All right. So an example is like I sort of told you that idea of if a movie shows two people sitting at a cafe table and those people were talking, okay, uh, those people talked about the two people sitting at the cafe, they talked about the news. They talked about the news, but all the stuff going on in the background, you know, if you wanted to say the waiters were walking back and forth and uh, uh, dishes were clattering in the background, yeah, all that stuff is just description of what's going on in the background while the two people talked about the news. The two people talked about the news, that's an event. That's preterito. But all the stuff that happened in the background before they started talking, while they were talking in the middle, after they're done talking, it still was like a rolling thing in the background. That all that stuff, the clattering of dishes, the waiters hustling back and forth, that's all imperfecto. Imperfecto paints the scene of what's going on in the background because it's descriptive in the past. So, okay, the difficulty for us as English speakers is we've got that idea of used to, or somebody was doing something, right? The waiters were walking back and forth. That's imperfecto. The dishes were making a lot of noise because they were clattering dishes around. That's imperfecto. It's background activity. Okay. The difficulty for us as English speakers is that, shoot, we already are learning a different set of endings for preterito, right? Like the ed in English. And now we've got a different past tense, a different set of conjugations we have to learn. There are two. In Spanish, this is the mind blower. It is very rare. It is rare for somebody to talk in the past and not use both of those past tenses and flip around between the two of them. It's almost impossible because anytime you tell your little story, it's going to have both events and descriptions, both events and background information. So those two tenses carry, besides having the conjugations going on, also carry information about how long something was going on and if it was definitely finished or a rolling background scenario. So the verb conjugation itself conveys or puts a special twist on that action. Okay, so all stories in Spanish will use both the preterite and the what we call the imperfect. All right. It'll use both of them. And that becomes a real challenge for us because, you know, we're trying to struggle just with figuring out the blankety blank conjugations, right? And now we have to know the meaning behind it as well. So, yeah, that's difficult. Okay, let's take a look. Preterite has for regular preterite, and I have to say that because there are a ton of irregular preterites. And English is, to be honest, probably just as bad because it's that idea of sat or saw. We don't say he seated, right? Or he sitted down. It's sat and saw. So we have lots of irregulars in English as well. But here for the regular preterites, and you just have to know which words are regular. AR verbs will get special endings, right? And this one, actually, I'm going to highlight this one here. The e with an accent mark is super important because that indicates it's an AR verb and I did it, and that action is now over. So I spoke is hablé. Hablé. I spoke and it's over with. This verb hablé has to be pronounced with a punch at the end. You cannot pronounce it this way. I'm going to say this word. Hable. Hable, punching the ah sound, will not be the preterite form. Punching the e sound at the end is super important because hable, punching the ah, still talks about the action of talking, but it means something else. It is a command. It is an order to tell somebody, hey, talk. Talk now. Speak up. That's hable. And hey, speak up is not like saying, hey, I talked to him yesterday on the phone. Totally different people, totally different time frame. And the only difference is that there's an accent mark on that e sound at the end, hable. And that really has to be punched. So hable, you have to listen for not just the conjugation, but that stress pattern, right? Hable, hable, right? Hablaste, you spoke. Aste is for AR verbs. Hablo, and not hablo, right? You know hablo, hablo punching the ah sound, but hablo punching the ah sound is present tense. It's yo for present tense, right? But hablo means he or she did it, one person did it, and it's done. It's over with. It's in the past, right? Oddly enough, AR verbs get amos does double duty. It does both presente, present, and preterito, preterite. It does both. Yay. So how do you know? Well, if it's present or past, you know from context. Fortunately, nobody in Latin America uses this one, so you don't really need to learn it, hablastes. But here we come to the plural, right? Instead of hablan, it's aron, aron for the ending. Hablaron, hablaron. They spoke. A group of people, and I'm not in the group, right? They spoke. Okay, so those are the endings for regular verbs if they are regular AR verbs for preterito. Event, this happened, this happened, this happened, and it's over with. Okay, ER and IR verbs are going to, up and down the line, share the exact same endings for regular preterite. ER and IR share everything in preterite. And it's the E with a punch at the end, E ending, like comí, I ate, not I am eating or I eat, but I ate. There's another great irregular example in English, ate. I don't say eated, it's ate, right? Iste is our ending here, comiste, you ate, right? Yo is for talking about one person did this action in the past. Comió, comió, and we have to punch the O harder than the E, right? It won't be E, O. It's yo, yo. Punch the O. Imos is our ending for nosotros, right? Comimos. Again, we can skip our vosotros, comistes. We're not going to use that. And instead of aron with for the AR verbs, aron, it's hieron. Hieron. Hieron, they ate. Comieron. Comieron. Okay? Those are our regular endings for preterite verbs. Okay. A ver. Very good. Keep in mind, sadly, sadly, there are a whole lot of irregulars in preterite. That's the sad part. And it's sad because that means there's going to be a whole category of things that just have to be memorized, and that's never fun. Nobody likes doing that. Yeah. But that is a bridge to cross at a later date. Okay, ejemplos. We're going to move on to our little examples. We'll deal with the imperfecto in a little bit, but not right now. Right now, I'm going to pull this in from what I gave you for instructions. These were tagged on to the end of our Estoy desvelado. Yeah, I've been staying up too late video. Come to class next week with some basic ideas or reasons why you stayed up too late sometime. And just come with the idea in English. I'm going to help you do some translation into the Spanish. Bien? Good? Because our objective right now is going to be to recognize how we apply some of this preterite. Okay? So, something that caused you to be up late, and we're going to turn these into some preterito for some practice during class. Who's got an idea of something we're going to change into a past, something you did that made you stay up too late? Shall I start with an example? And then I'll come to you, Andrew. See?
Okay.
I'm going to start with one example so that I kind of get the ball rolling. Okay. I'm going to show you an example of, bien, vale. I'm going to take, it's something that you actually heard in the video, but the AI did a bad job of translating it. Editar. Editar, to edit, is an AR verb, and it's regular. Yay. Okay. So if I want to say, my husband edited a report, right? Mi esposo, and now editar is an AR verb. I can't use this to talk about mi esposo. I need to use this one to talk about mi esposo. One person did this, right? And they did it in the past. So if I take editar, an AR verb, I know I'm going to need this o ending. And it's going to become mi esposo editó. ¿Sí? Un informe. He edited a report. He edited a report. Bien? I'm going to make this yet a little bit bigger. Un poquito más grande. Okay, Andrew, give me an action, and let's turn this into a past idea.
I had to work late.
I worked late. I worked late. Trabajar. 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 Trabajar is a perfectly regular verb. It's an AR verb. And now it's gonna, it can't be he was doing this. It's got to be an I was doing it. So we're going to turn trabajar into a yo form. It's going to be
Trabajó.
trabajó would mean he worked. But to say I worked, it's going to be trabajé. Trabajé. And we punch the je at the end. Trabajé. And trabajé, people automatically recognize as it's an I did it. You will not generally hear yo used with this verb because trabajé only works for yo. It can't mean anybody else did that action. So because trabajé already tells you that yo is the person who did it, I. We won't use the word yo. You'll only hear that verb, trabajé. Trabajé. Trabajé muy tarde. I worked very late. Bien? Okay, bien. But notice, if I say trabajó, it makes it somebody else worked. Right? I'm going to show you right next to that. Trabajé is I worked very late, but my daughter worked late. Mi hija trabajó muy tarde o trabajó el jueves. She worked on Thursday. Okay? Bien?
Mhm.
So trabajó tells me one person did this by themselves, yeah, not in a group. Trabajó. Trabajó is not trabajo, it's trabajó. She worked. Okay? Vale, bien. Otra idea, another idea, something you did.
I
Sí.
have one. I was delayed on a flight because of the air traffic control.
Oh.
Yeah, that kept
Okay.
me up really late.
Lo siento. Wow.
Hmm
Sad to hear that one. That's not fun. There's always somebody I know who was affected by that. See? Now, I was delayed.
Or I flew on a plane, a delayed plane or something
Let's
like
take
that.
a regular
Yeah,
example. Sí,
yeah.
bien. Okay. To fly is volar.
Volar, right.
Volar. So it's going to do the same thing that Andrew gave us with trabajar. Volar is going to become I flew.
So, volé.
Volé. ¿Sí?
hmm
Perdón. Volé. Excelente. I flew. ¿Sí? Bien. Let me flip that around a little bit. I'm going to talk about this from the plane perspective.
hmm
¿Sí? Bien, 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 bien. Oh, I'm trying to think of an easy example. Bien, okay, here's an easy example. Boom. Get my cursor back.
Marilyn,
Sí,
try my flight arrived late.
we'll do that one too. Retrasar would mean that something was delayed. Okay, was delayed.
Yeah,
But the flight was delayed, right? The flight was delayed. So the flight, el vuelo, and now it can't be a yo verb because we're talking about the
right.
flight. Did this? El vuelo
So,
Retraso.
retrasó. Retrasó. ¿Sí? Mucho tiempo. El vuelo retrasó. The flight was set back, right? The
hmm
flight was delayed.
hmm
The flight delayed, and then, however your period of time is. And let's use llegar. Llegar is to arrive. Okay? To arrive. It is a very regular verb for all tenses. Llegar never goes into it's got some spelling changes, but anyway, llegar. So if I want to say I arrived late, I need to make it a yo form.
llegué.
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 Llegué
Now,
tarde.
llegué tarde, but
Mhm.
I'm going to show you something here. It can't be spelled like what you're seeing on the screen, although you said it right. Yay! So see, it doesn't matter that you don't know, it's got a spelling change because when you say it, it's what you expect it to sound like. Llegué. In order to get that, but if I spell it this way, GE sounds like and I don't want it to sound like the sound. So to get it back to a hard G sound, I pop in that letter. But I don't pronounce this letter. This letter won't make any sound. Its job is to stand here and say, I'm making the G hard. That's all. So the U is silent and it still sounds like jiggy. It just needs to be spelled that way. But notice when I asked you, how do we say this? You applied the rule and you were right. Jiggy, jiggy. Now, that U thing, that U coming in to make G get the sound is because GE has a sound, a specific different sound, right? And we want it to have the g g g g g sound instead of the h h h sound. Okay, that g g g sound remains if I get this ending. So I don't need a GU, it just stays as a G. Llegué muy tarde, llegué tarde, I arrived late. But if I want to say the plane arrived late, see, el avión, and now avión is a one thing, and it can't be llegué, right?
Right.
El avión
Llegó,
llegó,
llegó.
llegó. It will be llegó, not llego, I'm arriving, not llego, but llegó, llegó, llegó. ¿Ok? Bien. El avión llegó. El avión llegó a las 11, por favor. It arrived, yeah, sí, por ejemplo, por ejemplo. The plane arrived, right, at 11. So here are all examples. We're talking about the yo and something else. Okay, bien. Adelante. Otro ejemplo, another example of something that you did. Julie, sí.
Last night, I babysat my grandchildren and their parents came home late.
Oh, we've got two. Okay. But notice, Julie, this is good that you brought this example up because I took care of them and then the parents got back. Those are both two events, right? They're both two events. I
Mhm.
babysat and it's not nighttime, so I'm not doing it anymore. It's over, right? And the parents got home late. They're two separate events. They're both preterite. Let's take a look. Bum, 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 bum. Okay, I babysat is going to be this verb, really, because it's the one that makes sense. Cuidar, because you take care of, right? So I took care of the kids. I took care of my grandkids.
Cuidé,
Cuidé. Cuidé a mis nietos. And we're going to add another activity. Mom and dad came back. It's still going to be llegar, right? See? Y mis hijos, my kids, they came back. Uh-oh, wait a minute. It's a they came back. It's a more than one. It's a llegar, an AR verb, but it's a more than one of them form.
Llegaron.
Perfecto. Wow, look at you guys. Ustedes son inteligentes. You guys are smart. You're just popping those rules right in. Cuidé a mis nietos y mis hijos llegaron a
tarde.
sí,
Tarde.
tarde. Bien, right? I took care of my grandkids, and my kids got home late. Perfecto. But it's both mom and dad, so it's llegaron, llegaron, right? Llegaron. They got back late. Perfecto. Okay. Muy bien.
Now, on that one, you have to hit the aron real hard,
You hit the
like
Aaron. Aaron.
uh, aron,
Not Aaron, but Aaron. Yeah.
aron.
Okay. And why does that happen? Actually, Andrew, it's good that you brought this up because You know, editó gets an
Mhm.
accent mark because the last letter of when the last letter of a word is a vowel, we normally don't punch the end vowel. We normally punch second to last syllable. But because the way this is pronounced breaks that rule, I have to write an accent mark so that people know, oh, you're punching the end. It's a preterite thing. Editó, 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 right? Trabajé. It ends in a vowel. Normally, we don't punch that last vowel, right? A word that, any word at all, whether it's a verb or anything else, any word that ends in a vowel, we punch the second to the last syllable. That's the normal pattern in Spanish to punch this. But because we're breaking the rule of second to last gets more stress, more emphasis, because we're breaking that rule, we have to have a written accent mark because that tells people, hey, watch out. We're punching the end. This is not normal. Trabajé. It's a special meaning. Yeah. We're same thing here. Last letter is a vowel. Normally, the normal pattern in Spanish is we punch the second to the last syllable if the last letter is a vowel. But no, because we're breaking that pattern, that rule, we have to write the accent mark in. Now, let's take a look at llegaron. Last letter is an N. We again punch the second to last syllable. Oh, that's what I expect. If the pronunciation follows that rule, yes, ends in an N, second to the last syllable is what we punch. It follows that rule. I don't need to write an accent mark anymore because it follows what the rule is. The rule is last letter is an N. I punch the second to last. Yep, it follows that rule. I can leave it alone. No accent mark needed. No accent mark needed, right?
Okay.
But this breaks the expectation. It's not cuide, it's not cuide, it's cuide. I am breaking the stress pattern, so that's why I have to have the accent mark. Yeah, see? Bien?
Mhm.
And this little pattern, you'll notice the accent mark is there to tell you ahead of time, hey, this is what we will do with these past tense forms. So notice, yo gets an accent mark in both of these, AR or ERIR, and O gets the accent mark in both the third person singular. So this form gets an accent mark, right? And this one, the LE usted, gets an accent mark. And the other ones, you don't have to worry about accent marks, okay? But there's a phonetic reason for that in Spanish because it's a highly phonetic language. It's the way it goes. Don't worry about it too much. Okay, bien. Otra actividad, another thing that you did to stay up late or that caused you to stay up late. Algo más, anything else?
I've got one, Marilyn. I watched a very long game on television.
Ah, I watched a really long game. Okay. And watched could be mirar. Oh, I need to put my screen back up for you guys. But when we talk about um, watching on TV, usually they use ver. Some regions will use mirar, but ver, even though it means to see, is used for watching TV. Okay? Ver. Oh, hey, hooray, hooray, hooray. Not an AR verb, not an AR verb, not an AR verb. So, so, let's go back and look at our rules again. It's in the ERIR category. Ver. To say that I watched a show becomes we take the ER off of ver and it becomes vi. Vi un partido en la tele. I watched the game on TV.
How do I know to use ver instead of mirar?
Ah, well, okay. Buena
Does
pregunta. Good
does
question.
mirar
We're
mean
going
to?
to use a different, we'll show you another example of what happens to mirar if you were to use it. Okay. Por ejemplo, let's say I want to say, uh, boy, I looked at all the cars on the lot. I was shopping for cars and I looked at all the cars on the lot. We're going to use mirar because, I did a careful examination, right? I was checking them out. Miré todos los carros. See, miré todos los carros. I looked at all of those cars. I looked at all of them. What's the difference between ver and mirar? Mirar means to look at or to watch in general. Ver is usually see. Okay, wow, what's the difference? There's a great video I'm going to send you this week to check
Sure,
on the difference between those because it does a very good job. But
sure.
in general, even though mirar means to watch or to look at something, um, we use it for shows. So let me give you the short example. I know ver means to see, but ver, if we're talking about like a show, a concert, something on a stage, a TV show, a game you attend in a stadium, they'll use ver. Even though I know in English we say I watched a game, they'll use ver for that. Okay?
Mhm.
But it's the same difference as I see something versus I look at something. Yeah. See is a perception. Look at something, I guess, requires conscious effort. Yeah. But I've got actually a great video I can refer you to on that. But do know that for watching a show of any kind, be it on your computer or the TV, generally, I know we say watch, but you'll be using ver for
Is
that.
that for any entertainment? Any kind of entertainment?
Anything that's, yeah, anything performed. Yeah. Sports, concert, play, movie, ver. Yeah. Okay. Bien. Okay. If I look at pictures, if I look at photographs, that's just mirar, right? It's not like an action I'm watching, like on a stage. It's just mirar. Oh, sí. Por ejemplo, miré. Oh, buen ejemplo, buen ejemplo. Good example. Miré todas las fotos de mi nuevo sobrino. I looked at all the pictures of my new nephew. See? Es un bebé. He's a baby. Miré todas las fotos. I looked at all the photographs. I just looked at them. See? That's mirar. This is used for an event, spectacle, be it musical, sports, movie, whatever. Okay? Bien? Vale. But I will send you a fun video on that because that watch is for an event is kind of a tweak. Usually it's saw. Okay. Bien, 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 bien. Otra actividad, another activity, another activity. Sí, Deborah.
I went to a family birthday celebration.
I went to a family birthday. Here, the big the big, bad, irregular raises its ugly head for the first time. But
Oh,
how
okay.
often? No, es bueno. It's good. It's good. It's big, it's bad, it's ugly, it raises, but we have to know it. Hey, how many times? Went is one of the most common past verbs you'll ever use in any language, right? And think of this, right? Your little grandkid or your child is 2 years old. Mommy, I go to the store. I go to the store with grandma. And you say, oh, honey, how nice that you went to the store with grandma. Because we don't smack them in the face and say, we don't say goed. No, we just say gently, oh, he went. You went with grandma. Okay. Ir is a very irregular verb. Momentito. I'm going to take this off so that I can add a new screen, because sadly we have to add a new screen. Well, not sadly, we just have to do it. But I have to adjust my little controls. Now, this is good for you to know. Es buena idea practicar. This is something that you're just going to have to memorize. Irregulars. Sadly, there are many. And there are so many, not to scare you, there are so many, we're not going to talk about all of them today. But we are going to talk about this one and all the forms for this one, because how to get from go to went requires an irregular verb. And look, in English, it's super irregular. It's not goed with an ed, it's went. Where the heck does a W come from? W, seriously, for go in the past? Well, that doesn't make any sense. Well, what you're going to see doesn't make any sense in Spanish either. Yay! Okay, we're going to go from ir to something that starts with an F. Yes, ir in the past, in preterite, preterito, they're all going to start with an F. Okay, here's what they're going to be. They're very irregular. However, you're going to notice one, well, no, we're not going to do that. Here are just a couple things, and it's a good idea to just memorize these. Fui, 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 I went. That's it. Now, you could go look back and say, fui. Oh, at least it ends in that. Kind of makes sense, but the F part, who knows? Yeah, fui. Here's a nosotros. Fuimos. Yay, we went. Here's fuiste. You went. Fuisteis, but you're not going to use the fuisteis. But this one you're going to need. Getting from I went to he or she went. Fue. He or she went. To talk about one person and they went somewhere is not going to be the yo you expect. It's just this fue. Fue. He or she went, and they went is going to be fueron. They went. Okay, entonces, so, ¿cómo se dice? I went,
Fui
fui, ¿y dónde? Where?
a celebración de cumpleaños.
A la celebración de cumpleaños. Perfecto. I went to the birthday celebration. Bien, vale. If you want to say, I went to, or, oh, you want to say that you and all your buddies went to the game together. We went to the game. ¿Cómo se dice? We went to the game.
Fuimos.
Fuimos. Fuimos al partido. Ayer. We went to the game yesterday. Okay. This one This verb is a good one to memorize simply because we use went so often. All right. It is like you divide your words, your activities into a pie chart. How often do we talk about where we went? Constantly. So, good idea to just know that ir is super irregular. Um, and this one, because they're very short, they're easy to memorize. Here are the ones you're probably going to use most often. Fui and fue. And maybe fuimos because we talk about what we did, right?
We-
Fui, fuiste, fue. Okay? Bien. So, went. This is one of our many ugly. Why is it ugly? Because it doesn't follow the pattern. It's irregular. It's not that it's ugly, it's just super irregular, right? Ir just turns into something that, what? What does that come from? Just like went, where does that come from? ¿Quién sabe? Who the heck knows? Okay, otra actividad, another activity. That's a good one to memorize. And I'll resend that whole file, although it's just altered now, so you'll get the whole thing. Otra actividad.
I stayed up late to get things done.
I stayed up late. I stayed up late. Okay. A ver. And vale. Desvelar, desvelar. Yeah, to stay up late. Desvelar is to stay up late. It's an AR verb. It's a regular verb. I stayed up late. It becomes
Me desvelé.
desvelé. Desvelé para terminar mi trabajo. To finish my work. Desvelé para terminar mi trabajo. Sí, perfecto.
Okay.
Bien, desvelé para terminar mi trabajo. Buena idea, good idea. Bien, otra idea, otra actividad. Another activity? ¿Nada más? Nothing else? Okay, vale, bien. So, I'll add just one extra thing. Bien. Let's throw in one extra. And notice like a whole bunch of our examples were AR verbs. And the reason for that is that just most of the language, right? Such a high percentage of verbs in the Spanish language are AR verbs. But let's take another one. Let's say I want to communicate that we all ate a dessert last night. Yeah. We ate a dessert last night. Comer. ¿Cómo se dice we ate a dessert last night?
Comimos
Comimos
Comimos.
un postre
anoche.
anoche, exacto. Comimos un postre anoche, ¿sí? Bien. Vale. So do keep in mind you're going to hear all the AR and ER and IR verbs, but this category of verbs is just a bigger category. So you're going to have more examples of that. All right. And just as we know that these are the regulars, there are going to be certain verbs that are super irregular in Spanish. It is a very challenging part of the language. We're not going to go into all the preterites today. We did show you the one because really, out of all the irregulars, the biggest deal is this ir verb. That is a big, huge deal. And it is super, super, super irregular. So,
Hey, Marilyn, I just had
sí,
one other question or one other example. I
sí,
guess
sí.
I thought to myself, what keeps me up at night? I'm like, well, if I drink too much coffee, right? So if I want to say I drank in terms of beber, I would say baby.
Sí,
Okay.
perfecto. There's a
That's what
nice
that was the
example.
only one I had. Yeah, that we didn't talk
Beber,
about.
beber, sí, bebí demasiado café. I drank way too much coffee. Baby,
Or they told
right?
me it was decaf and it was not, you
Yeah,
know.
baby, yeah?
Okay,
Sí,
thank you.
eso, sí,
Yeah.
perfecto, perfecto. So now, do I expect you're going to 100% know all of these verbs, verb endings, know all these conjugations? No. But we want you right now to be able to do some baby examples, some easy ones, talking about myself. I did this, and maybe a we. And some of these other ones will fall into place as you get more practice. But you're going to hear a lot of these in examples of the videos as you move forward. So it's good to be able to recognize them, even if you cannot use them all. All right. So, okay. Entonces, la próxima parte, the next part of this is we're going to take a quick look at, for listening purposes, for understanding that somebody is maybe describing something in the past, there is this second past tense. We're going to take a look at this today so that you know what to expect from it. It is called imperfecto. And the reason it gets that name of imperfect, meaning not perfect, is that it doesn't have a perfect boxed. I can put it in a box. It happened on Sunday and it's over with completely. It is imperfect because it is left hanging as to when exactly the action finished. It finished, but when? We don't really know. And probably more importantly, with the imperfect, the reason it exists is that the end point, the finishing of the action, is not a big deal. We don't care exactly about knowing when it ended, just that it's done with. So that's why descriptions, if I say the mountains were beautiful, I don't know if they stopped being beautiful ever. That's not the point. The point is that it is a description, but I don't really know when it began and when it ended. So that's why we call it imperfect, because we don't know, and it isn't the point of when the beginning and the end was. All right. So these conjugations, these endings, which we call imperfecto, imperfect, they often can be translated as used to or somebody was doing something, either one of those ideas, and they are descriptions. And the beautiful thing about imperfecto is that they are extremely regular. There are only three in the whole language, only three verbs that won't follow this pattern. And everything else follows this pattern all the time. Yay. So here's what happens. AR verbs get some kind of an aba ending. So that's why when you heard estaba, that comes from estar. We're used to see, you learned that estar is very irregular. It is in present. Estar becomes estoy, but then it's estás, está, estamos, están, right? For imperfecto, for that tense, estar is always regular. It will follow this pattern predictably 100% of the time. Yo estaba. Tú estabas. Notice that tú gets an S at the end. There's always that little S at the end for tú endings, yeah? Well, not in preterito, not in preterite, but in other tenses, yeah? S at the end means tú, you. Abas. It's still aba with an S slapped on the end. It becomes the tú form, right? Yay, look at this. Yo and él y a usted share the same ending for imperfecto. So estaba can mean I was. Estaba can also mean he or she was in a place. Here is one situation. For imperfecto, you may hear the pronoun yo used. You may hear the pronoun of whether it's a guy or a gal or, one person. You may hear it used if to clarify. perhaps, right? But the yo conjugation is the exact same conjugation as what they use for el, ella, usted. We still stick with the aba idea with the nosotros. We just add a mos on the end. The mos tells us it's a we, a nosotros thing. Habamos. And this one is kind of a mouthful, right? Saying hablábamos is a very long word. Hablábamos. Okay. Habáis is vosotros. We don't need that one. But notice we get an N at the end for the third person in the plural, just like you get an N at the end in present for third person plural. Ellos, ellas, ustedes is going to be haban. Haban with an N at the end. Okay? Bien? You'll notice very few accent marks. That one gets an accent mark because, wow, we're like a whole bunch of vowels pushed back for the punch, right? But aba, all of them are aba endings for AR verbs, right? Aba, abas, add the S, aba, abamos, we end the mos, aban with an N at the end. Bien? So those are AR/IR verbs. ER/IR verbs are going to share the same kind of endings again. Again, the yo conjugation will be the exact same as the LA conjugations. These all get accent marks because we want to pronounce or we want to punch. We want to punch the E sound more than anything else. All right? So ia endings. Ia, and it'll be the same thing for LA usted. Ia. But slap an S on the end for the tu form. Ias, right? Íamos. Ia is the only use in Spain, and ian, an N at the end for a they. So these will be the descriptive or the used to kind of verbs. That's the most common way you'll hear these. Let me give you an example. Un ejemplo. Let's use tomar. Tomar can mean to take, like a bus. It can mean to eat or to drink. A beverage, tomar has lots of uses. Tomaba. Tomaba. Por ejemplo, here's an example of a used to. Tomaba Coca-Cola cuando era adolescente, when I was a teenager. When I was a teenager, tomaba Coca-Cola. I drank Coke. The emphasis is not like, well, how many times did you have a bottle of Coke? It's that this was a beverage I habitually used to have a lot when I went out with my friends. Okay? Bien? And that's why it's tomada. I used to do this. It talks about a habit I had in the past rather than one-time event. Okay? The yo form is going to be tomábamos. Tomábamos. That's a mouthful. Tomábamos, right? The tu form will be tomabas. Oh, why did that bump me out of my blue? I don't know. Tomabais, we're not even going to write that in. Yay, we're going to get the same thing. Tomaba, tomaba, right? Yo form is going to be the same thing for LEA. Usted form, tomaba, tomaba. See? Y tomaban. Tomaban. They used to drink. Bien? Bueno, okay. Un ejemplo. There's a nice predictable verb. Let's use our comer example with ER and IR verbs. Comía. Comía. I used to eat. Bien. Comías. You used to eat. Same thing here for one person as with yo. Comía. Comía. He or she used to eat. Now we're going to get comíamos. Comíamos. See? Comíais, you don't need that one so much, but we're going to focus more on this one because you will need this one a lot to talk about a group of people, and I am not in the group, just a group of people. Comían. Comían. Bien? Vale. So, Um, we're going to show you our three break the rules in a bit. Okay, so just try to recognize in the next story we have, in the next video we have, when they're switching to past. See, bien? We're not going to use those imperfecto to talk about something that happened yesterday, an event I could write in my diary. Yeah. They're going to be for descriptive things. And I'm going to show you some little steps along the way that will help with that next week. Come to think of it, I'm going to show it to you now. Let's talk about some verbs that we use all the time in the past. Yeah. So I'm going to show you why I'm going to show, we're going to talk about this now. I showed you these very oddball thing. Oh, perdón. Hit the share button, that helps. I showed you this thing that, and said, you just need to know these. These are irregulars, right? Fui, fuiste, fue, fuimos, fueron. Okay. And you just need to memorize those because we use went so much. We use went all the time. And you just need to know it. Okay, so it's irregular. Don't worry that it's irregular. Just know that that's the form. Bien? Good? Okay, let's talk about a verb. And went very understandably falls into the event category of preterito, preterite, because we use this as an event so commonly in conversation. Let's talk about another verb, which in conversation, most of the time is going to fall into this category. And I'll tell you why. Just like we say went, many times we want to be able to say that somebody had something. Yeah. Had. Right? Oh, I had 20 bucks. Where did that go? Yeah. Oh, you want to say, I had two dogs when I was a kid. I had two dogs. Yeah. You want to say, oh, you know what? I had to drive because my husband or my wife did not have their driver's license with them. Oh, they did not have. Look, oh, you can't say not had in English, can you? Not had their driver's license. That doesn't sound right. Did not have. That's what we have to do in English. Okay. We use this idea of had a lot in English, just like we use went frequently. So we need to know a way to say had. And that means it comes from to have. So that means, ooh, I'm going to need to know how to conjugate tener to talk about the past. Yeah. Okay. Tener, happily, will follow this pattern. Tener is an ER verb, right? It's going to follow this pattern perfectly. You're used to tener being very irregular in present. Tengo, tienes, it's got a stem change. Tiene, tenemos, tienen, really irregular in present. Tener is going to be perfectly regular in this, what we call imperfecto. I'm going to tell you, this is a pattern that you are going to hear 90% of the time in Spanish. Tener will usually be used in imperfecto. Why is that? Because most of the time when you say, I had something, that's not an event. It's not an event. So it doesn't fall very neatly into that preterite. It's an event. You can write down something happened. Tener, in many cases, 90% of the time in Spanish, it didn't happen. It just was. And that means if it just was, it falls into imperfecto. So to say, I had two dogs, it's going to be tenía dos perros. Tenía dos perros. You're going to hear this tenía a lot in videos. And tenía just means had. So it's going to follow all these forms. Tenía, tenías, tenía, teníamos, tenían. Tener is about as frequent as ir for conversations. Okay? Bien. O, por ejemplo, I did not have any cash. I did not have cash. And you know that this just means we put a no in front of the verb. We don't have to worry about that did part in Spanish. The did just tells us past, that's all. So I need to have a no. I did not have any. No tenía dinero en efectivo. I didn't have cash. Okay. Oh, por ejemplo, somebody said, ooh, did you have your credit card? Did you have your credit card? Did you have that? ¿Tenías tu tarjeta de crédito? ¿Tenías tu tarjeta de crédito? This just throws it into the past. Did you have it? That's not an event. It was sitting there in your pocket or your wallet or your purse. I don't know how long. What is important is not how did it get there, right? It's just that it was there and therefore it is imperfect. So I don't know how long it was there, right? Tenías, did you have it? Tenías, see? Okay. Oh, por ejemplo. Oh, I'm so sorry. We did not have time. We did not have time. See? Lo siento mucho. We did not have time will become no teníamos tiempo. And again, that's not an event. It's not an activity I can easily define as it began and it's over. We just didn't have time. So tener, this is a 90%, this is a super frequent verb. And this 90% of the time is going to have to be put into that imperfecto conjugation because the nature of the activity with had isn't an event. Yeah. There are times when tener can go into imperfecto, but then it's going to mean it's going to change the meaning of the verb a little bit. It's going to mean you got something like, say you went and adopted a dog and you say, hey, we got a dog last weekend. Then we take tener and put it into imperfecto. But then that's an event. Hey, we adopted a dog. We got a dog. That's what it changes to. So tener most of the time, 90%, you're going to hear it as in past, tenía. Bien? Okay? Todo bien? Okay, all good. We're not going to touch on a ton of irregulars yet. Too much? Too much? You want to recognize these patterns. We want to show you these patterns so that you recognize, oh, it's a description in the past, an imperfecto, an aba or an ia kind of verb, or Oh, it's an event. I could write it down as an event in my diary. It's a preterite over and done with in a nice, neat box of time. It's a preterite, yeah, event, and recognize those verbs so that you can recognize these in the little stories that you hear being told from here on forward. I'm going to try to find a nice short video that's going to do a little bit of each so you can hear it. We want you to hear and recognize the pattern. See? Bien? And we'll come back and like fill out some more examples of that as we move along. ¿Alguna pregunta? Any kind of question before we wrap up today? ¿Sí o no? No? Okay. Okay. And these things are just going to uh, pop up like they would in English. Yeah. Um, okay, por ejemplo, let's go back. Now I've got an example to show you. So we want to show you.
Y muy tarde.
Yo dormí muy tarde. You want to notice that stem, that core center of the verb, D-O-R-M, when you hear it, dorm, comes from dormir. But the dormí, what you want to recognize is not that she's saying, I am sleeping or I'm going to sleep, but I slept. Dormí, I slept. See? So we want you to recognize these in storytelling as, oh, she's talking about the past, and here she helpfully supplied the yo. Most of the time they won't. They'll just say that word dormí by itself. But here she helpfully provided.
Yo dormí a las 2:30 de la mañana.
Yeah, dormí. Yeah, I went to sleep at 2:30.
Yo estoy desvelada.
But now she switched back to present. I am wiped out tired because I went to bed at 2:30. I stayed up late.
¿Y por qué? ¿Por qué Andrea la mexicana no durmió temprano?
And now notice she switched it to Andrea. And so technically she is talking about herself because she named herself as Andrea, no durmió. She did not fall asleep. And notice this is one of the many irregular little stumbling blocks that happens with preterite. There are a lot of them, but durmió, it still looks a little bit like dormir. Yeah, it sounds a little like dormir, but it changes the O to a U for one person. It didn't for yo. For yo, it kept the O. Dormí. I slept. Dormí. It kept the O. D-O. But to change the subject to Andrea, it changed it from D-O to D-U. It does that for a third person. Durmió. Durmió.
Temprano. ¿Por qué Andrea la mexicana durmió tarde?
Okay, bien. So you want to be able to recognize it in little stories like that, that people are switching into past. That's your main goal for the next couple of weeks. See? ¿Todo bien?
Yep.
Todo
Yep.
bien. Okay, so that you don't feel completely like somebody's throwing you, throwing you a curveball. You want to be able to recognize that they're just talking to you about the past. And I'm going to plug in some examples for the coming week so that you can hear some of that in some storytelling, because that's the way you'll get used to it. Okay? Todo bien? All good?
All
We're
good.
good.
Todo bien? All good? And
Thank you, Marilyn.
we'll still continue. I'll give you some prompts that will be easy prompts for you to switch from right now to past, right now to past. And I'll give you some of those to practice and come back to class with those for next week so that we can kind of reinforce that. See, bien?
Yeah.
Bien, perfecto, perfecto. And we're going to focus on that pretérito for event-oriented stuff. Okay, Espero que tengan muy, muy buena semana. I hope you have a really, really good week, ¿sí? Vamos a tener buen clima. We're going to have really good weather. Sí, bien. Va a ser muy buen tiempo. Hasta luego.
Adiós.
Hasta luego.
Sí, 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 bien.